the heavens open up and a powerful hybrid camera is unveiled, which could answer all of your needs. What camera could that be? Well, for me, it's the Canon R7. That isn't to say it's a perfect camera. Far from it, in fact. And in this video, we'll talk about where it does excel and where maybe it falls a bit short, as well as how it answered my personal prayers. As a side note, there's also one extremely basic feature that this camera does better than any other camera I've used, so we'll talk about that as well. But to start out, you might be wondering, what makes this a powerful hybrid camera? Well, for me, that means having the ability to take great photos and shoot reliable 4K video. This is a camera that I use for my YouTube channel. In fact, I'm filming on it right now. But I also use this camera for general photography, for gigs, for passion projects, travel, all that good stuff. So it doesn't necessarily replace my medium format camera for things like my artwork. I guess it could, but rather for me, it complements it. It fills out my creative tool belt. And there are a few elements of this camera which I feel support that with regards to its features. So at a high level, this camera offers a 33 megapixel APS-C CMOS sensor. It has in-body image stabilization that also works in tandem with optically stabilized lenses. 4K 10-bit 422 video up to 30 FPS without a crop and 60 FPS with a crop. Incredible Canon color science and the Canon RF mount. The Canon RF mount component could be kind of a pro or a con depending on where you fall on the third-party lens mount favorability scale. But in my opinion, that has improved dramatically with Canon opting to allow third-party support for the APS-C cameras like the R7. But from those specs I mentioned, there's really three that stand out, and the main one for me is color science. Having used a lot of camera brands over the years, I have worked with both great and poor color science. So when I opted to go with the Canon R7, it was largely because primarily, it had amazing colors that really blew me away. And longtime viewers of this channel know I am a freak for loving color science. And again, the colors from this camera are beautiful in both stills and also in video. Which, speaking of the video side of things, the 4K 10-bit log offering was really a massive step up from the cropped 8-bit 4K in my Sony a6400. And mainly it's giving me more dynamic range to work with, and it makes it so much easier to get a really consistent look when you're making multiple videos like I do on this channel. The final element I think really is probably the 33 megapixel sensor. But for me, I happily shoot with sensors that range from 4 megapixels to 50 megapixels. And kind of what I've learned over the years in shooting different cameras is that the amount of megapixels really don't matter. As an example, here's two images side by side. One is 8 megapixels, the other is 50 megapixels. And I'm wondering if you can tell which is which. If so, let me know in the comments. But the point is, I would be happy regardless of how many megapixels this camera has. That said, 33 seems like a reasonable amount for this use case. You have more than enough to get detailed stills while still having a solid video output that doesn't have to go in and cut corners to be able to compensate for the amount of data being processed. let's take a look at a few highlights of the physical body of this camera. Please ignore my injured finger here. But on the front side, we have a dedicated switch for autofocus to manual focus. This is amazing, has really helped me out. Love not having to look at a screen or whatever to be able to make that quick change. And hope that makes it onto future versions of the R7. We have a dial and joystick, and this is a love or hate scenario that I have grown to love. Probably not going to make it onto a future version of the R7, but I hope they do retain that joystick because I absolutely enjoy using it on this APS-C camera. We do have dual cards, and what's really nice about this is you can configure it to shoot all photos to one card and all video to another card. And that has just made it a lot easier to organize that information and data and then transfer it onto the computer. So I love that. All-day battery, we have the same battery that the flagship full-frame cameras are using. I bought extra batteries, never use them. I get all-day battery performance, which is amazing. And then the feature I mentioned at the start of this video, which is an exceptional but very basic feature, is this dial here, your on-off switch. But integrated into this is the separation of photo mode, which is when you set it to on, or video mode when you move it over to the video camera. And what's great about that is the settings are treated separately. So whatever settings you dial in on the photo side is remembered when you move over to the video side and vice versa. So if you had 200th of a second shutter speed on the photo side, and then 60th of a second when you go over to the video side, it will remember 200th of a second when you go back, and again, vice versa. So super nifty when you're doing photography and you want to capture quick B-roll without having to reset everything each time. And that is system-wide really. So your white balance, your ISO, your JPEG versus RAW, or 8-bit versus 10-bit video, you like all those features are of course then duplicated. So those are some of the highlights of this camera that I have really enjoyed of the physical body. Now, at the start of this video, I mentioned that this camera was an answered prayer. And for me, and for what my needs are, it really, really has been. So what does that look like? Well, at the time that I was looking for a camera, I had a lot of different cameras, and they were all kind of filling various needs, and realistically, like not doing any of that super well or efficiently. So I decided, look, I'm gonna divest of some of this equipment and really try to consolidate around a single system or even just like a single camera. And so I did a ton of research into every camera brand, literally, and every camera that was available at the time that I was looking, and really tried to narrow it down, which I came down to two: the Fujifilm X-S20 and the Canon R7. And for my budget and the features I was looking for, those were the two best options. Not gonna say there weren't better cameras, but again, for my budget and for the features I needed, those were the two options. And initially I leaned towards the Fujifilm X-S20 because it had third-party lens support and everybody hypes Fuji's color science. When I tested the Fujifilm X-S20 though, I found the UI difficult to utilize, at least for me, and I did not feel confident about the autofocus. And that really led me to take a pause and another look at the R7, at which point I discovered that they had announced third-party lens support, and there were even some lens already available. So really at that point, the rest is history. You know, the colors have been great. The autofocus has performed incredibly. I cannot drive home how big of a difference that has been. You know, on my Sony a6400, when I would film YouTube content, I swear like every third video would have like weird autofocus pulsing, or I would be just totally out of focus, or just weird stuff like that. And so this camera, in the year that I've had it, has maybe done that one time, which is, I mean, more than tenfold better than my Sony a6400, better than any other camera I've used to date personally. And it's really allowed me to have a single camera that could kind of quote unquote do it all. But that isn't to say it doesn't have downsides. I mentioned that before. There's certainly some downsides to this camera, and I'm not going to touch on every single one, but I am going to speed run through the ones that come to mind for me. One of the big ones is the fact that it has an IBIS unit, but does not offer pixel shift high resolution photos. Like, how is that even possible? Another big one is lack of higher end APS-C lens options from Canon. You know, we have third parties really filling in the gap there, but that's no excuse. Canon should be producing some higher quality lens for APS-C cameras. No open gate recording, no raw video recording. That's just stuff that the XS20 had that I was really excited about and unfortunately aren't available in this camera. And then I guess the last one would probably be no pop-up flash, which admittedly, I might be the only person who actually cares about that one. But that all aside, the shortcomings aside, do not ruin the best parts of this camera. And if I could do it all again, if I had to go back and do all my research, even in today with all the cameras that have come out since this camera, I think, again, for my budget and for what I'm looking for, this would still be the best option. And if I had to do it again, I absolutely would. So, is the Canon R7 a true hybrid powerhouse? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave those as well. I always do my best to answer every question that comes my way. But if you enjoyed the video, please do throw me a like. It helps out tremendously, and subscribe for more videos like this one. Which, speaking of videos, here's one which heavily featured the Canon R7 for photos and B-roll. Thanks for watching.